Everyone, I'll leave the madness in as always, and we'll have a little clip, and then we'll dive into the soul feed. Interesting subject, and one I really enjoyed. I hope you do too. And when I do get these all edited in audio, obviously I'll take out all the craziness. So if you are listening to this on audio, then you won't have to put up with the madness. But for the people who know us, it's probably quite funny watching us all get in on the call and all the nonsense that comes up.
Hey,
Good morning.
how'd the devil?
Very well.
Good.
Some beautiful blue skies behind
you.
you.
You've been busy, mate, have you?
Yeah, it's just sort of
Morning.
Oh, mate, it's lovely here.
second wave of
It's
paperwork.
proper Redders as well.
Yeah, stunning outside. Looking out the window at the blue. Hello, Mike.
Oh, mate, it's good.
Good morning. How are you all?
Ah!
Very well.
Very good.
How the devil?
I'm very well. I've, dressed for the occasion.
Man, I know you're looking pretty bloody dapper there.
I know.
Yeah.
Check me out. That's all right. That's because from the shirt down, I'm naked.
Mate, I always find when I dress smart, I just basically look everyone else smarter than me. That's basically all I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter what I wear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Just bumped everyone else up a notch, basically.
Literally, to be honest, this goes down to just below like my chest. And it's just sleeves and a collar. Beyond that, it's naked. I think I'll go and get a coffee out in town in a bit with it.
Yeah.
Why? Because you can.
Why? Because I'd blend right in.
Because you bloody well can. That's why.
I feel like I look like I'm the same. I look like a tramp. Like, so I can't remember what the film is where they grab this guy off the street and they put him in a suit because, like, it's like from here down. It's
and he gets
he's got like crazy hair and a massive beard.
Yeah.
They put him in it, but from here down, it's a party. He's in a beautiful suit and a fin, but like here up,
he's in a good place. Yeah.
Right. I think that's the look I permanently have going on. Like, I'll see what you've done with your clothes, but the rest of it's not telling the same story.
This bit, is it windy out?
I admire the attempt you've made. Is what I usually get. It's like, look, bloody good effort, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Thanks. You're here. That's what counts.
Listen, thanks for turning up, Dunk. Okay.
Pete was in the waiting room and then he vanished. I don't know what's going on there.
I brought my Allen key.
Okay.
Typical Pete.
Oh, flashing and gone.
Flashing.
I'm a really calm person.
Cider, are we meeting Jordan this week?
I don't know. I don't know.
Have you got any? Yeah, have you got any scope, mate? Or you got any?
I have later in the week would be good.
Cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Right. Thursday, Friday. Thursday probably. Good.
Mate, either or.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely.
I'll call up the man.
He made a sneaky appearance yesterday.
He does that.
He was like on the chat and then gone.
Oh yeah.
Was he?
He jumped in, gave Pete a bit of shit.
I saw on the WhatsApp.
He's like,
then left.
And then he's out.
Yeah, he's like, have that, Pete. And then he was gone.
Yeah. Quick, rapid, and then off.
Yeah.
Is he coming in today for this, or?
I have no idea.
I don't think so, mate.
No. Yeah.
Literally, I told him what to do, and then he just didn't talk to me.
Mate, he knows what to do. He knows what to do.
I said, pass your email address, and just
It's all right, Donk. I'm just changing my T-shirt because it's almost exactly the same as yours.
Well, mate, I go from the head up because I've got a massive totem pole head. So it's like,
yeah. No, I'm sorted. But I literally was just
whopping head.
put that on.
Peter, are we clashing?
We were clashing, mate, or we would have been. But good job. So no, Donk will be wearing that. Sure.
For sure. He'll wear that
No,
black and white t-shirt.
I thought you
Quick
saw what I
wardrobe
was wearing
change.
when I got out of bed this morning, but I take it you didn't.
It was a bit of a drive from yours back down to Devon.
It was.
I made it.
It's all right.
Just
We're not.
inside.
Yeah.
I just say DKP is for winners.
Oh, good.
That's what I say.
Bit of block bang grub.
Oh, man.
God.
I almost said it.
Chuck some CS
That's
in
what we
there.
love. Boom.
Pete, what are you changing into? A 3-piece suite?
No, I'm just
Batman
making a
outfit.
brew, but I was making a brew. So I thought I'd leave the camera off so you didn't see me gurning while I'm making a brew.
What have you been taking?
Well, that's it. I mean, brews with amphetamines nowadays.
Anyway,
Coffee's not good enough, eh?
it's the only way to make it through lockdown.
Yeah, fucking lockdown. What a load of bollocks.
Yep.
I tell you what, after everything that's going on in the streets right now, I think we're done with COVID, right? Everyone's
Yeah,
just
you're
like,
right. Yeah.
I'm over it.
And suddenly COVID was finished.
And that was it.
Yeah, I saw.
And we're done.
I think
Yeah,
everybody's
I saw
stood
a
at the
good,
door doing index. Oh, hello, Peter.
Hello.
Hello.
Peter.
Hi.
Peter.
Let's move that back a little bit. I'm using the beach rocks again.
Hey!
Hello.
There he is.
Oh, your head is
Everyone's getting like
Peter.
the little
I
set
just
up.
had bonnets doing me head in.
Now that
Neck. No, I'm not getting my hair cut.
Not
getting my
into
hair
window or something. They fucking open all the barbers.
tattooed. Getting tattooed in July.
you can be tattooed now, but you can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
They wear masks.
Yeah. That's it.
Where are you going, Side?
What, to get tattooed?
Yeah.
I always use a guy in Norwich called Josh Fisher.
All
He
right.
works at Cavalry Tattoo
Is he good, man?
in town.
Obviously.
Yeah, he's done all
Has he?
my tattoos, mate. Yeah.
Nice.
So yep. Come and get your stumps done. Get a little happy face.
Mate, and
my happy face, sad face.
the sort of, cut here line, but like only half of it because half of it's been cut, or tear here.
Yeah. In emergency, break here.
With one hand.
Yeah.
That half pair of scissors.
I might put this
See,
up.
I think that's hilarious, and that's well worth doing. My wife, on the other hand, like, you're an idiot.
You're a fucking dick.
So what are you doing? So honestly, it'd be hilarious when we get them out at parties. That's why we don't get invited to parties.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be there in your lovely suit,
I'm
looking like a
straight
proud,
Fair
and
enough,
you
fair
get your
enough.
stumps out.
2 pints in. Why is he walking around like a midget again? Get him in the car. Get him.
Yeah. SOULFEED. I'm keeping it real.
Yeah, tea.
Keeping it
I'm on
calm
coffee.
over there.
I'm on the SOULFEED.
And we just threw a sort of topic out. I think it's one that we've all like stepped through the different layers of, and it was the importance of leadership and management. And there's just like a little thing that I wanted to read before we kicked off, and it's the art of joint command. Okay, and it's the command is the authority that a commander in any armed force lawfully exercises over subordinates by virtue of rank or assignment. While command authority stems from orders and other directives, the art of command resides in the commander's ability to use leadership to maximize performance. Now, I'm sure we can all like talk about good leaders and bad leaders, but each military force and each company, like someone like Amazon, has like a certain set of tenants and stuff. And they all like sort of chime off of each other. But when you were a young man first joining the military, you know, was there anything that was like, did you even, I mean, I remember we did GSK. Do you remember General Service Knowledge? And it was like, yeah, force did this. Yeah. And we were all like writing in our best books. And honestly, the only way I'd go back and retain
You will
that,
remember it. Yeah.
the only way I could find that information now is if I went and found that book. I don't remember like it soaking in. So I think my question, I wouldn't
like right situations, but they're, you know, leading blokes through the whole, you know, situation. I think as a young Tom, you don't understand leadership. You understand command because you're commanded a lot to do stuff, but leadership has lost on you for a while. It was for me anyway then. I don't know what it's like now.
Mike, do you think that's because Northern Ireland at the time was such a deadly place? You know, I mean, it was, wasn't it? Like, let's face it, when you boys were knocking out tours there, I never served over there, mate. But the section commanders and all that, do you think they were just cut from a different cloth? Or
I think so, mate. I think it was more, you know, like I said before, where you saw the turn of the wheel from when, like pre-Gulf War and stuff like that, where you were the LAC and you just like bullied into a position where after that people were like, this bloke next to me needs to do something. We're in our to lead properly. You're VCP on this road, you are to do it. I saw leadership properly there.
Got no life experience. You just sort of to the loudest shouter, don't you?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you've got nothing else to compare it to, and it's that shock of capture because they're trying to turn you into something. And I think, you know, like what you're saying there, Neil, about the GSK and stuff like that. You know how, like, I think I learned more afterward about our core and about all the interesting things our core did that I think would have given me more of an insight in basics, if you know what I'm saying. So, like, had they sat down and said, right, you need to know all about Mike Thiele. You all need to know about what the regiment did in, like, Aden. You need to know, like, all this. And they sat you down and told you. I think that would then have made me think, oh, I really want to know now about all the rest of the stuff. And, yeah, I know you have to get tested on it and all that. But I think that would have been better because that instills that core pride. But then on the other side, from the leadership point of view, I think I was lucky because I came in the late 90s. So it was probably, do you know what, Mike? It was probably, you know, it was like my, are we allowed to say names on here? Are we just,
you do it.
Commander Basics was Rob Williams, yeah?
Yeah.
And, mate, I tell you what, like, genuinely, for me, that guy was an absolute legend because, yeah, all right, you get the thrashings over the mounds and this, that, and the other, that's fine. You've got to get it, haven't you? But on the other side, I'll tell you what, when I left basics, I knew everything I needed to know because of that bloke. And I was expecting the next section commander to be exactly like him. And it wasn't quite like that, you know? So I don't know, I think I lucked out, mate. I think I was really lucky because he was so good, you know, that I don't know. It's that horrible thing, I think, that personality driven sometimes, but
Mate, yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of people that say if you want to know your trade, you've got to go and teach it. You know, there's a lot of people that say, oh, those that can't, you know, teach or whatever, bullshit like that. But it's like if you teach somebody something, you've got to know it inside out to be a credible instructor.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? You can't stand there and bluff it at whatever level, because even when you're teaching like the Toms, you know, like the young lads, you can't bluff it because they're not stupid.
No,
they ask. You know, they'll ask questions. They'll say the floor in it. So yeah, and it is, mate. I think it is personality driven.
Don't get me wrong. We have blokes that I was like, when this guy's in charge of us, we just get absolutely smashed. And if you put your hand up to ask a question, before you could ask a question, it was like, round the mounds, go. And you're like, but I haven't. And you know what I mean? And it's just like, but then you knew when it was certain guys that were teaching you, you're like, I'm actually going to learn. You know, this is brilliant. I'm actually learning map reading because this is mega now. And it was good, but yeah, like you say, and then I think that then hits you when you go to a unit, isn't it? The first sort of cardio you do, it's like machine guns where you're getting battered with like all these facts and figures and all these different drills and all. You're like, oh, it's down to the bloke that's teaching you whether you remember it or not, because some of them are more interested in thrashing you than they are sort of teaching you to be a decent gunline, aren't they? But,
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah, and I think
Later
it's
on
not
down the
so
line
much.
in your career. No,
Sorry.
go on, Neil.
I was just going to say I'm probably going to say the same thing as you, because it's later on that for me that I look back and I can pick out the leaders. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's with hindsight. So at the time I was like, oh, I feel a draw towards this person, or I seem to pick up more when I'm onto this person. But I was, so busy, so caught up in what was going on that I couldn't say at the time. Like if someone said, who's the best leader here? I'd be like, well, the one I like the most is this person. But then like hindsight going back, maybe the one I liked the most wasn't actually the best leader, obviously you were talking about basics instructors before we sort of move on to our own sort of things. Like Kev, for me, out of all the instructors, was probably the quietest spoken, the one who, like, when he had an interaction with you, was probably pretty close to you, as opposed to like shouting across this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But like the way he talked about things, he talked about whole life things. He talked about getting up early in the morning. He talked about doing his own quiz before coming in. And because he was talking about his whole life in the military, not just like, we're going out for this, we're going out for that, we're just talking about rifle lesson 1. Because he was talking about the whole spectrum, you were like, oh, okay, well, his day is pretty busy as well. He's not just showing up for this one thing. And with hindsight, I'm looking at him and going, what he was doing was leading me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, mentoring. Yeah. I think that's what good leaders do, though, mate. I think, like, by a little bit is by example, isn't it? Because that's what gets you hooked, whatever that. And then when you sort of hang about a little bit more, or they're teaching a lesson, or they're doing something, you sort of think, yeah, this is, I like this. This is good. And I think that then has an impact on you. The one time you get to do it, you think, well, I don't really know. Well, I know how I don't like to treat people, so I'm going to do it like that guy over there. He was really good to me, so I'm going to do it like him. And I think that's how that mentoring kind of works, and it's in its basic form, I think.
Yeah.
Which works definitely.
Yeah.
And it has to, I think.
It's interesting to think though, thinking back now, just sat here thinking, I remember the bad ones more than I remember the good ones.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
But that's always the way, I think.
I think you're right, mate. Yeah, I think you're right, Pete.
It's always the way. You remember the bad because you think I don't want to be that person. I don't want to follow those traits, because you sort of subconsciously take in the good examples. I certainly do anyway. I'm taking in good stuff, and then I only ever check my actions, if you see what I mean. If my subconscious says, hold on a minute, this isn't one of the things that you just admitted was a good thing. It was actually, this is bordering on what is not a good example of leadership and mentorship, and then you have to stop what you're doing and reassess,
And I think it is, and you do mirror those things that you've seen that you like through like leadership and command.
Yeah, you find the positive
and approach
out of it. Like the positive is, I'm not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? And like Pete was saying, you build up this certain sort of balance inside of yourself where it's like, I don't even have to think about it. These are the motions I go through, but you're almost building up your own left and rights of arc where you go, I'm bumping up against the way this person used to behave, and I don't like that. So I'm coming, I come back to my, all right, and I'm bumping up against the way this person behaved.
It's how you tune in your own sort of moral compass, isn't it, in a sense?
Yeah.
Because you think, I'm not going to be guilty of what that guy did, because everyone knew he was absolutely rubbish at this, that, and the other, so I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Because you used to hate getting judged, like your section getting judged by your section commander if he wasn't a good section commander. I used to hate that. What section you on? And you're like, oh God, man.
Not with him.
And you're like, oh, come on, man.
Or just because you was on the Crowburger flight, like on 2 when B was training flight, fucking nightmare. I remember we had to call
I've always been on the Crowburger flight.
let's call everyone else just patrolled across this dam in the jungle when we were in Sierra Leone and we were doing a training package, and then I felt sorry for the section commander because everyone turned around and they're like, "What are you doing? You're breaking cover and all that." And we were like, "What the fuck?" And then literally you got this bloke who was a really good section commander, and he's being told by other blokes that weren't as good as him, crawl across this dam and make your whole section crawl across. And we fucking crawled across.
Serious?
Straight up, mate. That was...
See, where's the, like, sort of solidarity of the commanders there? Like, you know, that's like...
I know, yeah.
But that's, right, so this is me being like, I don't know. Like, that's before, like, Iraq and Afghan really kicked off on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we started seeing
true,
the value in the blokes next to you. And
Mm-hmm.
and exactly what you just said, Don, that solidarity between commanders, where, like, we used to sit in Ireland, like, you'd hand over to another flight, so like 3 patrols each 24 hours of turnover. You knew which patrol you'd be handing over to, blah 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 blah. You'd never see them off. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Batteries would all be recharged. You know, all the vehicles fully refueled, all the traps and everything in that vehicle good to go. There'd be nothing left. And be none of that, like, seeing each other off. Yeah, I left there and went to 2, and because we weren't doing anything particular at the time, there was loads of that as well. Like, you know, see each other off.
One-upmanship, like.
Yeah, completely.
I hate that,
just,
man.
And it wasn't until, like, the wheel started really spinning with Iraq and Afghan that mentality sort of, like, very much disappeared. Yeah.
But
like
you say,
it's so bad that people like that, though.
Oh, mate, yeah. But that's just lack of confidence in their own ability, I always say.
Yeah, I was just
it was like
100%.
that down on the obvious as well. Like, it was, if he was on a platoon, I mean, I remember out of the 3 platoons, it was me and the other platoon sergeant were section commanders together, and we got on like a house on fire. The other guy came in from another battalion, but because he was very friendly with the company sergeant major, suddenly he went up to being like the sort of like 3IC of the company or something. Yeah. And me and the other platoon sergeant, mate, he used to see us off constantly. Like, I mean, go out of his way to see the platoons off, so his platoon would look better. So when it come time to get your, like, assessments or SJAR or whatever, he looked better, and you're like, mate, I am not in competition with you. We're on different career streams for a start. But and it was so embarrassing, mate, that and it actually followed us out into theatre as well, embarrassingly.
Yeah.
And he actually got found out to be, well, pretty crap at his job. But
shit.
It had to take extreme measures in order for that to happen. And you think, well, why not just be okay? Don't be a douchebag. Just be okay.
Yeah.
Like,
don't be a dick. Rule number 1.
Out. Yeah. Like, come on.
It's
unbelievable.
And a huge part of, like, leadership and learning to be a good leader is that followership bit, that if you're part of something and something's going well and you, like, you know, more power to it. So, like, if there's 2 people pushing a car and you get in behind it and you push it as well, the 3 of you, the car is going to move forward quicker, you know what I mean? Whereas if you run around the front and you push against the people, it's, you know, it's either going to come to a stop or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like that company already has a forward momentum. It's going somewhere. It already has 2, you know, platoon sergeants. It's going on operations, and then you come along and you're just stalling, you know, the situation. So an element of you know, followership, as in coming in, looking at what's going on, following the path, you know, it will lead you to be successful as well.
You need to be a good follower in order to be a good leader. And then I think that's what we've been talking about, really, when we're talking. You take it all the way back to your basics instructors. If you've got good blokes there, and granted, back when we went through basics, there might not have been, well, certainly when I went through anyway, not necessarily a lot of operational experience amongst the training teams, but they were still good leaders, and they were there. You'd like to think because they were the best that was on offer at the time. You know, later on down the line in your career, you realise why some people were constantly doing training wing rotations and everything. And that's just down to family circumstances a lot of the time, and that's a fair point.
Fair one.
But yeah, you know, if you see them being a good leader to you, but also a good follower to their 1 up and their 2 up, which yeah, there was obviously friction, but you didn't really pick up on it because they covered it up well.
Yeah.
And then you go into your subsequent career, and if you can't follow, even if you don't necessarily agree with what's going on, you can still follow and then make your small points. And a good leader is going to be able to allow those followers a little say in what's going on as well. And again, you know, we benefit.
Yeah,
shouting down the blokes, man, is never I don't think that's ever a good idea. You know, look at me, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
It doesn't last, I don't think.
It's not a credible way of commanding and leading, is it? Let's face it. How many blokes, officers, you get in, you try and lead, and because they've got no ability to be the follower, even though they're supposed to be in command, they haven't got that, I don't know, lack of ego or confidence to just follow for a bit. Then they come in, stamp their group. You know what I mean? Came in, tried to change it. It was just like
you could say, "Oh, have you heard?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, I heard about that."
Ooh, yeah.
And it wipes everything out.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh boy." And it's been something, you know, you're only human, and it one, and you think, well, you kind of deserve. But yeah, it's amazing how people's careers are sort of righted and wronged, aren't they, by the masses, if you know what I mean.
By opinion,
yeah. And it's true, isn't it? It's the.
And there's a certain element of
popular, but
yeah, there's a certain element of jealousy in it as well. You know, people are waiting for people that are striving to succeed and really going and putting themselves. And we said it before, put your head up above the parapet. They're waiting for you to take.
How many times, mate, have you heard it when guys are going on like arduous courses, and the first thing you hear someone say is, "Nah, he's got no chance." And you're
no
like,
chance.
"Oh my God, are you for real?" And that is one thing I could never get my head around in the military.
Especially when they're getting their fucking 10th donut of the day down them, and they're like, "Nah, he's not going to do it."
Whoa, that's when Chief Unit Fizz Dodger. But it's amazing, and you sort of think, I thought we were all striving to, you know, for everyone to do the best, and they're like, well, he's not getting leave, he's not getting any special treatment. He can get sorted for it in his own time, and you're like, wow, there's nothing like a bit of solidarity, is there? You know?
No, mate.
That's what I liked about too in the early days, you know, because if you wanted to do something, once you got someone within your chain of command to roger up to it, you did get a lot of opportunity. It was great. And I don't know what it was like on one.
You had good CEOs, didn't you? You had like good bosses like Mike Bird and all that they'd been somewhere and done something, mate. And I think that's the difference sometimes. You know?
Yeah, true. I mean, I was lucky because we had the fees, you know, Kingy, you know, as our full screws. And then Tim was our chiefie, you know. Ian was our Ian Ball was our stripey. It was fucking brilliant. And like whatever you want to do, they backed you up 100%. And they were thrashing us anyway.
It's what you need, isn't it? It's that whole like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to fail.
Well, that was the example, yeah. Basically, they just treat us like dogs, but in a good way, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You know, told us when to run, told us when to sleep. Told us when to eat. You know, and they smashed. I was quite old actually.
No, I know, but like, you mentored in a sense.
That, and then, but I could see a flight, you know, chatting around in the hangar. So actually, I'd rather be on that flight sort of thing. And then we got asked what flight we wanted to go to, which it's not a fucking massive choice really, is there?
No.
3 out of 4 because you can't stay on B. But anyway, but I used to see them cutting around, and I thought, I like the way they are. And then they were good leaders, and they all were good fun. And then to add another bit is they were good mentors. But if you were showing them that you were interested, then that's what you want, really.
The point about the interesting thing for all of us, I think, is there's this like leadership and management thing, and I'm going to sort of equate it to, the courses. We're very fortunate that we get put on courses as we go through. I know that my brother in the civilian sector has had to seek out those courses and ask for people to pay for those courses because he's been put into managerial positions and leadership positions, and that's just like you've been here long enough. You know, you seem to have a good grasp on something. You're now the leader of this group, and there's no formal course. And then, all right, you're now moving up and you're now in a managerial position. But I think with us, what's interesting is when you get put into on a like Pete, you go to a flight, etc., and then you promote up into a 2IC of a section, you're almost into a managerial position straight away, which a lot of us don't, because logistics and feeding and ammunition and like counting and stuff like that is like one of your primary roles. Check everybody's good to go. Make sure it's wild that you do so much. Like, you're expected to lead at such a young, so expect to manage at such a young age. And I think obviously with the the change with having Lance Corporals has obviously allowed them a formal training course for that now. But it's almost like we then do that course and come off to the other side of it and go into a promotion course for a command level. And then the Air Force or the Army or the Navy turns around and goes, okay, you're now going to go on your junior leadership package on top of that. And your NCO cycle that someone says, I'm going to get a managerial, lesson. And you're like, well, hang on a second. I was doing this before I was a junior. Do you know what I mean? Leader. I was doing the management bit. So I think, like, for us, very much like that understanding of leadership and management is hugely important because, like, do you remember the first leadership position that you were put into?
Yeah, I do. It was you go through the early stage of your career thinking the blokes that are in command of you fucking hate you because they're giving you such a hard time and you don't get anything out of them. You don't know whether you're doing well or whatever. And we were doing that beat up training to go to Sierra Leone, and it was Tell again, and I learned so much off that bloke, and he put me and Bally in 2IC slots, doing that training, and I was fucking bricking it, mate, because it was literally, me and Si, we'd been on that squadron for him a few months longer than me, but probably about 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden we're doing, Terry's giving us a run out and see how we are, and I was bricking it, and we smashed ourselves, trying to get everything done. And at the end of it, it was the first time, I had someone go, all right, because he pulled us aside at the end of the day, and we'd just been doing section attacks pretty much for about 10 hours, mate. No word of a lie. And then, and he said, oh, you've done really well there, lads. And that was it. And I thought, oh, nice one. This beast of a man is actually saying, yeah, we're doing all right. And then subsequently, the same thing would happen with the fees and Kingy and all that. And they'd be just pushing you and throwing you into these roles. And then finally you'd get something out of them like, yeah, okay, that was good. As opposed to just completely destroying you after every single debrief, which is another point that we raised in previous sessions. But so, yeah, I found it pretty scary. And it actually wasn't until I got into, I think it was a tour in 2004 where it was like, right, for sure, you're now on ops and you are the 2IC of that patrol. And I found that quite a big responsibility, having not been in that long. Especially because there was a load of old sweats that were just not getting any of those roles, and then all of a sudden us younger lads are being given the roles. But maybe that's why the sweats were there, because they just couldn't be asked with it,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably will do that.
I think it's important that those, like, you're put into those positions, because, like you said, people are like, it's hindsight. You look back and you go, that they were doing all the right things for the right reason, and like bringing me on. But one of the tenets of leadership in the military is this sort of politically and globally astute person, etc. And I want to go back to where you were saying about Pete, about you turn up in the hangar and it's like, oh, I want to go on this, I want to do this course, and the people are going, yeah, absolutely, I want you to go and do that. And those people, I would say, were more sort of like, Air Force focused, RAF regiment focused, or certainly globally thinking, because they're like, if we talk about Donk's point about understanding their history, understanding where they came from, well, history has a way of repeating itself. And if you think about, you know, armored cars and the long range desert patrol groups and all that kind of stuff, you know, if you then go like crank the handle all the way around and put yourself on those vehicles out in Afghanistan, what the hell were we doing? Do you know what I mean? So if people haven't gone, how does our force deliver air power to, how do we do that? How do we have a global impact? How does our fighting force? Well, guess what? I can guarantee you it's going to be pretty much, obviously within the realms of technology, the same way as we did it before. And if you're not allowed to thrive and
as
succeed,
for the reason we were incepted.
you know what I mean? And if you're not allowed to thrive and succeed and be driven, and you're always crushed down, then come the time when you're expected to execute, it's just not going to happen, right?
And it comes back to what Sider said about mission command earlier on. You know, those guys were big on mission command in terms of, you know, even on a small scale, you're section 2 IC, but the full screws were big on let him fucking run with it, get on with it, and he will take care of everything he needs to take care of, rather than being on your shoulder. And of course, we go through this. If it's not checked, it's not done. And they would be checking, but they would just let you roll with it, you know. And that went again when you were a section commander in you know, luckily for us on the squadrons and the units that we served on, then people were really happy to exercise mission command and let you crack on. You know, later on down the line on different ops, you're a full screw and you're leading multiples, you know, and you should be a sergeant by rights doing that, but you're a full screw leading multiple patrols in a big AO with multiple threats, and that's mission command, you know, letting you get on with it.
Yeah, and that mission command thing is like, it takes a cultural shift, because like you think what the Germans came up with that in the 1800s, you know, because of things had massively changed from them. They couldn't do things the way they'd been doing things, so they had to find a way to change, and it forced them to change. I think sometimes we play a little bit of lip service to it. You get good commanders who do it well, and other people that aren't doing it well, because it comes from like mission type orders, as in you have to know the mission type, and it comes from those orders. And then if you know the mission type, you can have tasks and etc., and you can do that on a day-to-day basis. You know, in your life, it's like, we know we're going to do this thing, and I think we've talked about like checklists and balances. But if you have a certain sort of idea of the mission, and you've given a set of orders that like fill in the gaps, you know, between the tasks and the priorities, it's then you've got that sort of you know, centralized intent, but then that decentralized execution of it, because you can go, well, I know what the end state is, I know what the intent is, and I know the task that you know, the vehicle that we're going to use to get to the other end, and I can just be let loose, right?
Well, that's it. That's why you get the 1 up and 2 up in there, and then normally you'd understand the 3 up. You know, you'd understand the bigger picture, and that's why, again, we were lucky that we had commanders that would once you knew their intent, they'd be happy for you to crack on, and knowing that you wouldn't drop a clanger, you know.
There's a lot of overlapping things, isn't there, that allow that to happen.
There are,
like you know, if you were one of them old sweats that had been left by the by, and then suddenly you were thrown into a multiple commander's position, I can guarantee his 1 up would be on his shoulder, because he wouldn't have trusted him. So, you know, like I know going through my time that as a junior commander and then being a senior commander and having people to pick, you know, like, who am I going to get to command this unit? Who am I going to get to command this, that, and the other? I would pick the capable bloke over the time served bloke.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what happened to you, Pete, innit? You know, Terry's a good operator. He'd look at you and go, him and Si, they're good geezers. They're on it. They're going to be better for me to support me as a commander.
Yeah.
And then fucking half-wits, even.
And it goes back to the followership thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because completely. He knows that we're going to dig out blind, get it done. And the same with Erwin as well. Dig out blind, get it done, and then follow his lead. And then ultimately you're contributing back to what Neil said, the overall success of that mission or to that unit. And that's why we were that unit, you know, back in the day, a force, to be reckoned with, because everybody was pushing as hard as they could to lead, follow, and or just get out of the way. That old cliche. But
mate, and the thing is, you had leaders and commanders, and what I think a lot of other units had were commanders and managers.
Yeah.
And there's a massive difference. I've met some really, really, really good leaders. Could they manage themselves? Could they? God no.
Yeah.
Even, do you know what I mean? You see them and they're brilliant, but you have to spoon feed everything behind them. But they can lead all day long. They could, the blokes would follow them. And at the other side, I've seen guys that are brilliant managers, brilliant. They can forecast exactly when you're going to need like a resupply or your manpower or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Put them in the front and go lead, and they're like, no,
can't do it.
Yeah.
And the blokes see it straight away, and the blokes have got no confidence in them, and it just falls over. And it's that, it's a hard balance to get both. I think generally you're either a good leader or a good manager, and the other skill, you like a good leader can manage things. Yeah. But I think it's hard for a good manager who can't lead to bring up a leadership thing.
You can always sort of forgive your boss, can't you? Like if you get a boss who's like, he's a good boss, as in he's good for the blokes, he leads the blokes. I think you can always, as a senior anyway, you can forgive all the little things about admin and all the rest of it, because absolutely going out the gate, he is on the ball and he's all over it, and it's fine. You're happy to sort of sweep up the rest of the little bits and bobs.
Mop his admin crap up for him. Because
it's true. And I don't think
it is,
I don't think you even hold it against. I've never held it against the boss that I've had to do that for, because I know that they go the extra yard when you're actually out the door, and that's that's the most important.
Normally, a bad boss is can be attributed to having a bad senior.
Yeah.
because that senior is not fucking working hard to ensure that that bloke understands the way that things go.
Yeah, and
but also if you get a young sprog off, you tell them what to do. And I always remember, listen, I don't think up to the squadron, and they were just met by older sergeants actually mentored, and my sergeant going right, and you're like,
cheers.
Glad I dug out,
on the flip side, though, it was when I taught on Jay with Feezy, was having a grip of it. I was like, they're biggest, and they're us senior NCOs, and it's not just us. The Navy and everybody, they all do it. Their junior officers are instructed by quality senior NCOs. That's where they learn. So
you're a product.
They're not above us. Yeah,
you're a product of that. So at the end of the day, the only people to blame, are yourselves. If that's something
if
it's something you want to change, then go ahead and try and have an influence on it. I think we can all to put that into any part of our life. Is there something that's not working for you? That's something maybe you need to lean a little bit harder into, or something and influencing people doesn't have to be that shouty, screamy, whatever. It can be that subtle, and it can be followership. It's like I see what I can see how keen and what this person wants to achieve, but I know that they're not going to get there. So it's like they've got 70% of a good plan, and if I can maybe add like 5-10%, don't change the plan, don't scrub the plan, because that's obviously that's just gonna crush their ego, and it's just your ego, like a little ego boost for you. But if you go, right, I'm gonna add 10%. Yes, I love the plan. This is what I'm gonna do to support it. Blah 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 blah. All of a sudden, it's 8% of a plan, and it goes so much better. And all of your guys, young officer, they see you in the position. They're like, well, Feezy or Mike or whatever. They're following the boss. And he's leaning in, and he's trying to make this plan successful. And it's like, if you, and they also see like little snippets of their bit. So it's like you turn around to your, each guy, and they're like, yeah, I know that was that part of the plan was mine. I know this part of the plan. And then everyone's like, starts to own it. They're like, oh, okay, maybe I don't own the first 70%, but there's 2 or 3% of that plan that belongs to me. And it's all been added on. And then when things start to go wrong, they're like, instead of sitting back going, told you it was a terrible plan, they're like, crap, my plan is going wrong. So we need we all need to help to make
collective.
my plans.
I
need to help it. work. Whereas if everyone's like from the beginning, from the offset, going, well, I knew it was going to go wrong, they're probably going to actually go the other direction and like help it snowball. So
Mate, yeah,
it's getting buy-in from people.
Yeah, completely. We've all done it. We've all sat in a set of orders, listened to the plan, and gone, this is never going to work. You know, and I went on a course, and it was a mixed cat badge. It was a pre-course for something else, and this bloke had dished out this plan, dished out his orders. We were going to patrol down this riverbed, come out of the dead ground, and attack this like farmhouse. And it was going to be like blacker than a witch's tit. It was going to be like one of those nights where there's no ambient light. We were going down this slippy riverbed. We were on a timeline to make it. We need to get down there, you know, in this time period, establish a line, you know, get up over the top, no artillery support, nothing, blah, 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 blah. And he laid all this plan out, and then he was going round everybody going, you know, any questions like that. I was like, have you been down the riverbed? And I felt like a dick because at that point, we were literally going to put our kit on, do rehearsals and go because he'd got his time in so compressed. But I'm like, have you been down the riverbed? He goes, yeah, in the daylight. And I was like thinking, we've been down there about 3 times this week. And we know it's slippy. We know it takes time to cross in the daylight time. And we're going to patrol down it for like an hour in the dark. And I felt like a dick at the time, pulling his plan to bits, going, you know, mate, this isn't going to work because we're not going to hit time.
It's going to be so slow go, Yeah.
And subsequently he did the unconfident commander thing and was like, well, shut up, we're going. Brilliant, because that'll work. Put our kit on. Yeah. We missed H-hour. We missed the objective time. It was all... And at the end, the DS was like, you know, why didn't you do orders earlier? Because things were brought out in your orders by guys that have been down that route.
Yeah.
Say, you know, and it's that whole ownership, isn't it? It's like that. If he'd actually, like Neil said, pushed out bits here and there, gone to his record commanders and gone, right, what's that route like? Straight away, his plan would have had to change. And because he was just going, that's my plan, that's where we're going. It's like,
and plus,
I
think you get kudos as well, don't you, for sort of going, hang on a minute, hang on, stop. Yeah, you're right, mate. Actually, do you know what? Let's scratch that.
Yeah, he would probably go.
Does anyone know a better way?
Yeah, more from the DS because it's sort of DS.
It's integrity, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. It's a complete integrity-based, like ego-free, you know. And they go like, right, if he stopped it then and gone, this ain't going to work. We're going to have to roll exit 24 hours or something. He probably would have got like a tick VG for that.
Yeah.
You know, instead of going on Operation Bravo 20, let's run around the desert with jerry cans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you can set people up for success and failure in as much as when they come on those courses, a lot of guys come on there and it's like, you know, I've got to jump through these hoops and this is what's expected of me and this, that, and the other. Whereas
horsemanship,
if you turn around to somebody and say, I just want you to do it, and exactly the way you would do it, like do it the way you would do it. And like, fair enough. Maybe you're not going to get artillery support. Well, guess what? That can happen for real. Maybe you're not going to get air cover. Well, guess what? That can happen for real. You know, all those sort of things. And it's like, we're stripping you back to your baseline skill set. But what would you do if you were put in this situation? Would you plow ahead, or would you go, what, you've been down that river 3 times this week? Well, what's it like? Well, it's like this, this, and this. And it's like, well, okay. From my perspective, then, and we're gonna scrub the job. We're gonna come up with a different way to infill this, that, and the other. But I think a lot of people approach those courses with a thing of like, if I come up with a good plan and I issue a good set of orders, you know, and I crack the whip, I'm gonna pass, and then after that, then I'll start doing things the way I would do them. You know what I mean? And it's like, no.
Yeah, it's very much like
now's the time.
See it as a very, like, each patrol is an individual test puzzle. So this is a puzzle. Go and fix it. I've done this. I've fixed it. I've done it. It's a cube. And you're like, okay, that's not the result we were after. It's not about you making the cube. It's about you learning the puzzle and how this puzzle connects to this puzzle.
Mate, you're so right.
Really early on, I learned that everything you do in practice, you do it as if you're doing it for real.
Yeah.
Like Jesus, how many times do you see people go on exercise or rolling out the door for like a 2-week, 3-week exercise with their kit packed like they're going on a camping trip, and you're like, and then be blokes like, I'm like Irwin's a perfect example. Talk about a bloke that travels light. I mean, like, you know, 2 water bottles, 4 mags, and a poncho. I'm good for 6 months.
Yeah,
rolling. But it was like
that man travelled so light. He did his own Casevac one day. I witnessed him do his own Casevac himself. Amazing. He's like, don't worry about it, and just went off, got on the radio and Casevac himself. I was like,
I've got my stuff here.
Yeah.
But yeah, every Blair, you play it for real. Do you know what I mean? So everything and everything you did then, I did subsequently, from being a 2IC section commander, sergeant, in the time and like that. It was literally like, we've got to make this block, this puzzle, but this puzzle fits into this puzzle, and these 2 puzzles fit into this puzzle. And this isn't just one, we're not solving one problem, one task by this patrol. Do you know what I mean? It's that overlapping, and that commander's thing of like, not, I think that's the difference between a good leader and a bad leader.
Yeah.
In
We had that highlighted to us.
Where you've got like a platoon commander that can only see its mission and task, where you'll see another platoon commander sees his mission and tasks, understands how it's going to impact his 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, the mission, the globe, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? And they're the difference. That's the difference between that bloke that you stand behind and go, I'll go anywhere with you, mate. Where are we going? Just give me the map so I know where to call in stuff. And the bloke you stand behind and you go, Jesus Christ, where the fuck are we going now?
Yeah.
There's an overlap going back to sort of our first group chat about, you know, inspection rehearsals. You'd almost call that a management task.
Yeah.
Okay? And the allocation of time to be allowed to do it, and that's the fact that you do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's an element of leadership earlier in that, where people know that you expect a certain standard of them, you expect this, that, and the other, and you expect it of yourself. So like when you show up and like, you know, the 2IC or whoever's done his 100% or whatever, he's done his check, and you come along and do your 10%, it's when you like, then something like one thing's wrong and you go, okay, fair enough, you personally have let me down. And then it's like, you know, that person feels that or whatever, or doesn't feel that. You check the next person and the next person's not right. You look at that, and then you own the factor is, I've checked 2 people and 2 people are wrong. There's something that I've done in my leadership of this that's said to these people that they don't have to do it. You know, that they're not, then don't realize the importance of what's about to come. And I'd say that, you know, that thing of Mike was saying about the difference between command and management and good leaders and good managers is that being able to have a switch in your mind in which role you're in at the time. It's like, okay, this is very much a managerial role, and I should conduct this, you know, the word, you know, means I need to check lists and balances, and a sort of the word control, you know, it means you're in control of an overall arching situation, but you're not actually commanding, you know, whereas in a command situation, it's directive, do that, do this. And obviously that has scope for mission command as well. But, you know, when you command something, it's different to when you're in control of something. And I see management, being able to understand the ebb and flow of, I'm in a managerial position, I'm in a leadership position, and the 2 need to be, you know, complementary of each other. Otherwise, you know, you can get into that situation and just absolutely, you know, snowball, lose your mind, you know, and forget this is a managerial skill I'm in here. I have failed to lead at this point. So let's stop leading and start managing, you know, and then once the management piece is taken care of, because that's that, I can go back into my leadership bit. And I think we get stuck in one or the other sometimes.
I think that there's a very fine balance, like as a leadership to manager, when you're talking about that sort of level, Neil, where, you know, you do a check, you know, you 2 blokes in and both of them are incorrect. You know, it's that point where you turn around and go, right, my mission commander letting the 2IC look at this as being like ill-placed, and I've not led him correctly, and he's not managed the blokes correctly.
Yeah.
You know, he's not managed the time to get the blokes. But it's like, you'd see that. This sounds like really like big-headed, but I'd see that in other people's patrols, but I wouldn't see it in my own. Do you know what I mean? I'd never see somebody like let me down as a 2IC because the blokes aren't ready.
Yeah.
But I put that down to the way I led the blokes. So the blokes, like whatever section, team, flight, whatever, they would always, I think because I try and empower the blokes underneath me, although I'm the leader and the commander, you give them empowerment. So everybody feels part of the team and wants to do the task.
Yeah.
Then they make sure that they've self-managed and they're supporting the manager as a 2IC, or they're supporting the platoon sergeant, and therefore, you know, they have honor to like make sure that they're screwed up, you know, screwed ready to go. Their max are filled, you know, water's filled, batteries are changed, blah 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 blah. Where somebody who's got a very autocratic leadership style and barks at their blokes and doesn't give mission command and commands more than leads, I think their managers and their blokes won't be so precise in making sure things are done correctly, because people are like whatever. And it goes back to that bloke with the river patrol. Do you know what I mean? It's like fixing one puzzle. You know, they're just looking at, we're going to fix this one puzzle, where the way we always looked at it, and I know we're all the same, we would have looked at like fixing all the puzzles. So it would have been that whole, you have to get buy-in from the blokes.
Yeah, you do, mate. Yeah.
You have to sell a plan. You have to sell a plan.
It doesn't matter even whether you're even if it's Operation Certain Death, or even if you believe in it or not, you know, you can go deliver the plan, and like, this is the best plan we've got, and then you just, that whole belief in yourself as a commander on the ground to make it happen, don't you?
Yeah,
that's true.
You know,
that is the thing, isn't it? You've got to have the confidence of the blokes, like.
Mate, and no, going like, you know, Dunk, the day that, you know, it didn't go right for you, you knew as a commander that you were being forced by somebody. You probably, at that moment, as soon as they said you've got to go and do it, you lost all probably command respect for.
For sure.
I mean? And I don't know the circumstances, but at the end of the day, if you're forced down, you know, excuse the pun, a given route,
that's a good example, Cider, actually.
By somebody straight away, and if you're saying that's ID Central, we're gonna get one going down here. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
and he's like, you're gonna go straight away. You've lost all command respect.
Well,
you know?
Mate, I think I sort of dripped on about it on one of the things where I said it was quite dangerous when you had commanders coming out to get their boots dusty and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Just to say, like, I've been out in the ground, and that is entirely when it goes wrong. And it's sort of, it's like an example of what you were saying about that guy wanting to go down the riverbed. You know, we'd been there for weeks, mate, and we knew the local atmospherics completely.
Yeah.
And we said to him, the commander, we said to the boss, the major, we said, look, we do not want to be driving vehicles down that road. It is not clear. There are IEDs everywhere. It's not a good idea. You know, it'll take twice the time, but we can do it on foot. It'll take twice the time, but we know on foot, you know, you can change it. You can change the path. You can change your route. There's so many things you can do rather than driving a vehicle that's not designed to take an IED blast down the road. And his comeback was, shut up, get in your vehicle and do your job. And when it turns into that argument, not only has he lost the argument, you're now thinking, right, I have zero confidence in you because you're just trying to prove a point. And the actual care of the blokes, which as a platoon sergeant, as you know, is at the heart of everything. You think, right, you now no longer care for my blokes, which is worse than not caring for me. I can handle you not liking me or whatever.
Yeah.
You take that when you get your pay packet. But as for the blokes, writing them off, and the boss, it put my boss, the platoon commander, in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
Because he said it in front of, like, also the major said it to me and my boss in front of the platoon. So he's basically bollocked us in front of the platoon, and you're like, okay,
brilliant. I mean,
now each and every vehicle commander is now thinking, well, we're going to catch a slice then, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that guy had the power literally that morning over life and death, right? Which sounds dramatic. But he could have said, do you know what, lads? You've been here the longest. You know the ground truth. Do what you think you should do.
Let's go with different
command.
route,
Mission command, or lads, sack the vehicles. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
There's been 1 or 2 IED incidents this year. Let's think about this. But no, let's not do that. And then, and it took not only that, mate. So he lost platoon sergeant that day, which is obviously me. And then 6 days after that, still because he pushed on saying that the vehicles should be used, 3 guys were killed. And you think, right, so you didn't learn from your mistake. I'll take the hit. That's not a problem. But 3 guys had to die before eventually you said, right, we're not using jackals anymore. We're going to use helicopters. Now that, to me, is a massive failing in life. Yeah. His 2IC, the company sergeant major, was so scared to say anything that he didn't say anything at all.
Mate, because he wanted his next step up the ladder, you know.
Yeah, and that's
hence,
like when do you know what I mean? I'd like to think if any of us were in that position, you would have stopped, like even before you rolled out the door, I've gone to him and gone, mate, look, boss, I know you know in front of everybody this, but listen to what the blokes are saying. The blokes have been here, you know, just like let's reevaluate this before we go down a route that we might not be able to get out of. And likewise, do you know what I mean? After you get smacked in the vehicles, and then he goes down the same route again of pushing vehicles, and people, you're like, where's the integrity of his lead? Where's the blokes doing the lead a bit or the follow a bit, stepping up and going, mate, you know, all your decisions, they're not too hot.
And again, it's I always found that position of being the platoon sergeant, or the sergeant, the attack sergeant, that is bleed over fusion or whatever. And then Dunk has obviously done the thing that he should have done and gone, no, you know, fucking hell, dude, this is not good. We, in a diplomatic way, not just fuck you, man, I'm not doing it. Put your point across diplomatically, and then get someone that supposedly had all this superior input and training just to go, fuck you, you're doing it. It's wrong. It
got to the point where I was told that I was going to be replaced on the ground if I carried on like it. And you're like, wow. So you're going to sack me because I'm worried about the blokes. And it's not that...
Yeah, which is your job to look out for them.
Well, because I'm the one that's going to have to Kazakhstan them, apart from when I have to Kazakhstan myself. But, you know, just like, you know...
No biggie.
Sort yourself out.
Pit my legs up.
Fill in your 9 life. But when you sort of think, hang on, why is everyone else not falling onto their sort of sword as well and saying, look, sir, you're getting this wrong? You know, to be fair, he very nearly got swore a bit that you don't like to do because it's awkward as hell. You know,
it is,
but it's integrity to the blokes, isn't it?
Yeah, I would, and it's not fair, isn't it?
That's the one time that you need integrity.
You don't expect the blokes to do anything that you're not prepared to do.
No.
And you're the one that has to face them when you're checking all the stuff that morning, and they're saying, "Are we really going out? Are we really going down that road, Sarge?" They're like, "Yeah."
Taking what you've said there, Donk, about like being in that command position and not, you know, not that light bulb not coming on. There's like, you know, these, every company has them, every unit has them, you know, there's like these list of things that we expect. And some of the things that we would expect, I'm just going to read through a list of them here in the military. This is like what's written down as leadership. And it starts with the word warfighter. Okay. So we'll just put that one to one side. for for everybody else, but courageous,
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent, willing to take risks, flexible and responsive.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Able to handle ambiguity, technologically competent, mentally agile, physically robust, politically and globally astute, and the ability to lead like tomorrow's sort of person as well. And if you just take that story in isolation, okay, it's like there's a willingness to take risk. Well, guess what? By the very nature of you've taken your unit into the country, there's a risk. By the fact that you know that there's improvised explosive devices on that route, there's a risk. Yeah. But you're then, emotionally intelligent when you have that conversation with the people who are on the ground, and they say to you, I don't think we should take vehicles. I think we should walk. Okay, so you're mitigating the risk. Yes, those people are still willing to take the risk because they're still willing to go out, and go across that ground. They're just not willing to do it, blindly. And then that's the flexibility and the responsiveness. The flexibility is we don't just have to use vehicles. We can use helicopters. We can walk. And the responsiveness is, okay, Roger, the original plan of going down the river in the dark, is a bad plan. Yeah, let's come up with a different plan. And then, it's that sort of understanding of the sort of the final intent. If the final intent is, we have to get onto this target, it has to be done, etc., that's fine. But all those other things need to come first. You can't, if you're not
the means of getting there.
It's not courageous, and it's not willing to take risks if you just drive on with a bad position. Anyone in the financial sector, more, what do they always say? So like, let's say, for example, you've lost 5% in your first quarter and you keep it a secret in the hope that you'll make 5% back in the next one. Okay, then you're 10% down. Now, what was an easier story to tell to the people that work for you with 5% down? Well, maybe they put 5% more effort in for you and help you out. Or, you turn around and say, okay, we can't go down that route with the vehicles. What should we do? Well, we should infill at this position, and we should whatever, or we should, and do it differently.
Mate, completely. It's like you just said, that 5% down. If you turn around to people and went, we're 5% down, somebody like the post boy at the back might put his hand up and go, we're 5% down because we're spending 5% on like X stamps because we're not efficient in the office. And you'd be like, Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, good point.
And it's like the commander with Donk's Patrol, it's like, we're here, we need to go down this route or whatever. Well, we're going to, take a slice if we take vehicles. Okay, didn't know that. Good to know. Let's walk.
Yeah.
And no one was saying,
lucky on that
let's not go.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, no one was saying,
people are still courageous. People are still willing to take the risk. They're just being mentally, robust in the way they're coming up with their plans.
Yeah.
But look at what he lost that day. If you want to look at it from a leader's perspective, he lost the confidence, the respect, the effort, everything of a platoon's worth of people, right? And you can say, well, do you know what? He can rise above that. He doesn't care. We've got a rank system. People do as they're told. But then a few days after, when 3 people were killed, him, the sergeant major, and all the rest of them completely lost any, modicum of respect and all the rest of it, to the point where they went back to camp and they never left camp again, ever, for the rest of the tour. And they had no respect after that, on the unit. It was terrible, man. And do you know what? All because they went against, it's almost like if you don't ask a question, if you don't like what you hear, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And you're like, well, don't ask the question then.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Don't ask.
Yeah.
Just
if
you're not man enough to take the answer.
2 tours before you on that one.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah.
No, I was just saying we were a little bit more lucky, I think, on the tour. I think I was 2 before you on that particular rotation, and we had a totally different bloke in the company commander, and he was very, very mindful of risk. He wanted to take risk, but he calculated it massively. And we had a couple of patrols that we got asked to go into some areas, and at that point we were being, we were in the stage where we were being commanded by it, or we were at disposal of 2 different hierarchical elements, before the whole sort of TF structure was set up. It was early days, wasn't it? And then, but a few of them, he was saying, no, well, I'm not going there until you give me more information about, previous patrols, And we had a couple of, I think we had, it was a hectic tour, but I think we had at one point about 10 days, which feels like a long time, doesn't it? Of just preparing to go and not going, preparing to go and not going, because he just wasn't happy. He said, I want to do the task, but until you give me some more. And we were planning and going backwards and forwards and going to conferences and everything, or VTCs, etc.
Yeah.
And finally, when we got more information, then we could make the better plan. And then we went, and it was a success. But if we'd have gone to start with, because he just went, yeah, fuck it, dudes, we're going. We haven't got as much information as we need.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turned out good, and that could have been very, very bad, what we could have gone into.
Yeah.
Because the subsequent operation we did to find out, strengths and weaknesses, it was overwhelming, and we got a fucking hiding, to be honest, and we were lucky to escape with barely a scratch on any of us. But if we'd have done the original thing that was being touted to us, it could have been a big loss,
And that goes back to Neil's list of,
Oh, hello.
All right.
Yeah, it crashed. No, it took a knee, and I think the cameras. There you are. It's like how much more we talk about courage as a leader, and people think about like the Colonel H scenario, getting up the front and charging the machine gun post, where the real courage of a leader, the courage of the leader would have been shown better on Donks Day when you should have turned around and go, that plan I've just said is crap. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to listen to my sergeant and I'm going to come up with a plan.
But also he knows
the
me.
boss you had, Pete, showed lots of the courage to turn around to his 2.
Yeah, and actually
do you know what I mean? We're not going on the job. The job's too bad.
And he was getting a lot of shit for it, mate.
Yeah,
he was getting a lot of shit for it from his hierarchy on both sides. He was getting in the shit. And then later on, a few years, I think even 4 or 5 years after that tour, I found out that his promotion had been blocked because he was giving so much back to him, saying, "Look, you're crack smoking, sending blokes down there until you."
And I bet the bloke that Donk had that day got promoted.
Yeah, but probably general now.
Well, one of them ended up as the RSM. One of them ended up as the battalion commander, and one ended up doing quite well as the platoon sergeant. And you're like, funny that.
Proof in the pudding. And the bloke in charge at the back, blowing the whistle, pushing you over trenches, was now in charge of the country.
Lions led by donkeys, mate. Lions led by donkeys, and that's always the way.
It is, isn't it? Just
from Pete's example, it's maintaining that sort of that emotional intelligence, where you go to yourself, well, I'm willing to take risk, I'm willing to push ahead and everything, but I'm gonna do this the way I've said I'm going to do it, and you're not going to be bullied, for want of a better term, into going ahead with it. I think like I was saying, all these different people have them, and I think that we should come up with in our own lives some things that we stick to. I look at to make it a bit more sort of palatable for everybody. I've looked at Amazon's list, and the first thing on their list is customer obsessed. And I guess for the guys who've succeeded in our world, they were, enemy obsessed. Question one. It is drives absolutely everything, and if I don't have the right amount of information about what's going on with that, I cannot do any of those other things. So like if you take like Amazon's customer obsessed and you are, you know, and you put enemy obsessed in there, it brings up question 1, and you ask that question over and over and over again, and eventually you can find the things that you require to make it a viable option to go on the job. But if you haven't got, you know, the emotional intelligence to go, well, I need to ask the first question first, you know, as opposed to going, I have 3 lifters on the 2nd of July, and because we have 2 lifters, we're taking 60 people and we're going to this place and we're going to execute. And that's the end of the plan. You're like, well, hang on a second, don't know anything about it, don't know how this, that, and the other, etc. So that needs to, you know, it needs to be your sort of guiding light. That it goes on, it talks about earning trust, thinking critically, a bias towards action, you know, fix problems once. I like that one where it says fix problems once. So go into a problem with the mindset you're not putting a finger in the hole and then the water starts coming out of another hole, and stop treating the symptoms of the problem, you know, you know, what is the baseline problem? If I fix this, let's fix it once and it'll never be a problem again. Now we understand that that's not reality, but if you go in with that mindset, you know, you're gonna come out, you know, as opposed to having to go back, you know, I'm going to go on that job that Pete was talking about. I'm going to have no question 1 done. I'm going to launch on it and I'm going to get my ass handed to me and I'm going to have to pull out and then I'm going to have to go back again. And then I'm not going to plan for the second time and I'm going to go back and I'll get my ass handed to me again. And I'm like, well, hang on a second, stop treating the symptoms of it, find the problem and go in and just take down one building with one problem and all the problems in that area go away. It's got goal orientated. Tech is, you know, a false multiplier. People, you know, are your biggest investment and your biggest advantage. Leaders are accountable, and then you know, it says improve constantly. And I just think if you grabbed that out of Amazon, like a delivery company or an online shopping company, and you put it into any military unit, they could instantly buy that.
I think so.
And vice versa, mate. If you were said to any credible leader and commander, give me some ways or values of your leadership style or whatever, you'd be like, I lead my guys the way I want to be led. Treat them like people. Your biggest resource is your manpower. You know, and that's true. And you can have all the kit in the world.
No one's going to work.
If your blokes, if you've not invested time, effort, and you know, like emotion into your blokes, then those blokes, they could be dripping with all the technology, all the kit in the world, and they're literally just human donkeys. So, you know, your biggest, and that's no different than any workforce. If your workforce is working for you, then your productivity is like tenfold. You know, and it'd be, you know, be humble, egoless, and be, you know, I don't know, be open to their ideas. And, you know, if you took those sort of things and went, right, okay, thanks. And then when like, Pete, Donk, what are your like top 5, like how leadership things? I bet we'd all come up with a really good leadership model.
Quite similar as well, I think.
I think so. And I think because of the nature of the way we went through our careers, all of us, and what we've seen and where we've been, and the jobs and the responsibility that's been put on us, your leadership styles are very much the same. And because we've all, I'd like to think we've all got the ability to be like someone to turn around and go, mate, that was a crap plan. And we've all, talked about the debrief things, you know, we've all stood up, took it on the chin and gone, what can I do to make it better? Right, I need to invest more in my blokes. That's where I've gone on my resource. My biggest resource needs investment. Then I think the model that Amazon have got, and the model that experienced combat leaders have got, aren't too far apart.
Well, it's funny how they're huge recruiting. Where do they recruit from? You know, they're
I see it all the time, mate. On LinkedIn.
Well, I mean, we mentioned Terry, haven't we? Look at him; he's going great guns in that company because he's got that mindset and he understands leadership and management. Because he was probably one of the best leaders and managers that I've experienced, immediately upon landing at 2, definitely, and then throughout the rest of the career, you always saw him doing good things.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect he's any different now. Do you know what I mean? I know when Jordan went to see him when he was working like Peterborough way, Jordan was like, he's put this in place, he's put this in place, he's put this in place, and the shop floor works perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. He's smashing it, mate.
Yeah,
and it's only because of that. He obviously used to study it quite a lot, didn't he? Leadership and management. Yeah. It was a big thing, the mindset. But it was the way he approached it when he was in the military. Now, clearly, he's just transferred that across and then adapted it again. And it comes back to Neil's point of being able to deal with ambiguity, being emotionally intelligent and being flexible and sort of adaptable, and being able to also be a chameleon in terms of the way you talk to one person or one set of people is different to how you speak to another set. So if you're down on the shop floor, for example, then you can F and blind and gob off and do whatever you want, really, and get the guys to motivate the guys by gelling with them or whatever. But then when you're speaking to somebody that's, you're 2 or 3 up, then you've got a different approach, haven't you? Yeah, and it all comes down to leadership and management.
Yeah, completely. And that, that whole like leaving your ego at the door, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You don't go to talk to your blokes with a massive ego, and then you don't go up talking up the line with a massive ego. You go up with humility.
You go with your humble opinion.
Yeah, go, this is what I think. So, yeah.
So. It's to sort of as an analogy, you're it's a fuel tank of options, and you've got to decide when to fill the fuel tank, and you've got to decide when to pump the gas harder and stuff like that. And if you're going to, or bank withdrawals or payments in, you've always got to be making larger. You've got to put, you've got to fill the tank up in order to be able to make a withdrawal from it. You've got to be, anything like that. So if you're constantly, foot to the floor, 100 miles an hour, and you've never got your eye on the fuel gauge, at some point, the tank's going to empty itself, and those men are going to stop, or, those people are going to stop working for you because you've completely emptied all the other things. Now, you may be in the best position where you take over from an incredible commander, and everybody sees you coming in, and they're like, we've only ever had Terry. So, this guy coming in is going to be exactly the same. Do you know what I mean? And you're going to empty that bank account a lot quicker.
Yeah.
If you're just constantly drawing on somebody else's what they've built up. But then your job is to go in there and build up your own sort of relationship with those people, so that there are times where you're going to have to draw on it, and you're going to have to tell them. And what's interesting is, after a certain time, I know, like I'm going to use an example with me and Mike. I was planning a job, and I'd kind of got, this guy wanted this job to go ahead. This guy, he'd laid all the maps out, etc. He's like, how would we do this job? La da 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 da. And I was like, okay, no problem. And I'd laid it all out, and I'd drawn it all out. And Mike came in, and he'd just come off a job covered in sand, and he was like minging. And I looked at it and I said, yeah, thinking of going on this job, and I've drawn on the map what I think. And he just looked at it and he went, it's too fucking complicated. It probably won't get signed off. Too complicated. It requires too many fucking aircraft, and you're mental. And he like walked out the room, and that was a kick in the nuts for me, right? And I was just like, sweet. But the problem was, I looked at the guy and I went, he's right. And because me and Mike had such a tight relationship, he was tired, and I understood that, but he didn't have to pander to me going, oh yeah, let me go get a shower, let me have a look at it. He could have done all of that. He could have blown smoke at me, but he didn't. He was like, if we were like invading on D-Day, it might work, but we're not. You don't have every asset in the world. This is not it. But he didn't explain all that to me. He just looked at me and went, it's too complicated. You won't get the assets. You won't get the support. And he left the room, which meant I could then go, okay, well, cool. Let's have a look at this again, etc., etc. Let me take the maps away. And we got into it, and the job went ahead. and it was like, in the end, we had 75 aircraft on station.
Yeah.
And it was just, we had to build a hide axe over the top of this area, blah, 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 blah. It was a complex plan, but I can tell you now, it wasn't as complex as the like art attack that I'd drawn the first time round. Do you know what I mean? Where it probably would have taken 175 aircraft instead of the 75 that we got. So, but I don't think I might not have been able to do that with another person. I would have probably, it would have taken, my ego would have taken a kick in. But at the time, I was just like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It let it, because of what had built up before that. And then we went on to be successful because of that relationship we developed.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I think leadership and management is, a lot of it's built on trust and reputation and that, but a lot of it's built on that honesty between the managerial leadership system. I don't know, or I can't do, or we can do, or I can do that, but it's going to be this way, and that's the only way I can do it, sort of thing. And that honesty to, hold you and go and be accountable and go like, I've messed up on that, or we can do it, but it won't be, it won't be that, it'll be this.
Yeah, roger that. I'm just going to I think we summed it up there at the end nicely. I think what an interesting thing for me, sort of a takeaway for it, is I'd like to, maybe on the 9FNK website or something like that, maybe put some of those tenets, because actually they're tenets that like people could, utilize themselves going forward or whatever. They don't actually have to, leadership and followership and management and stuff like that. I think it's a case of, there's multiple levers and things to push and pull and all that, and it's understanding each of them. But that little tenet is an interesting thing. And I think some of the things like emotionally intelligent and flexible and responsive and those kind of stuff, they're good little tenets to just sort of have. So I might come up with a list and try and think about it, because it does speak to who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think personally, I think this particular podcast, when we really got rocking and rolling, it really spoke to who we are, as in why we are the way we are, and the reason we think. We mentioned situations we've been in, as well as situations we've, and it's like, more so than any of the other ones that I've listened to, you can see why people have ended up being the way they are, because of the interactions they've had with good, like Pete was saying right back at the beginning. Your subconscious is a sum of all the good leaders you've almost had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, true.
Right, dude.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, guys. I'll edit this up.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.